There are places on Earth that are not meant to be found. They exist in the blank spaces on our maps, shrouded in rumor and fear. For years, I'd heard whispers of one such place, a ghost city deep within China's forbidden zones, beyond the vast Gobi Desert and the desolate peaks of the Kunlun Mountains. A city with no name, no history, and no record. They say it's designated by a number, 404, a digital error made real. They say no outsider has ever seen it and returned. Most governments deny its existence, but whispers persist. Tales of strange lights in the sky, convoys vanishing on desolate highways. My name is Alex, and I'm an investigative journalist, or at least, I was. Chasing stories others were too scared to touch was my addiction. This city, this urban legend, was my ultimate obsession. Then, one late night, a scrambled email landed in my inbox. The source was anonymous, a ghost in the machine. It contained a single, grainy satellite image, a perfect grid of streets and buildings in the middle of absolute nowhere. Coordinates followed. It was real. The warning was clear. They know you're looking. Stop. But for someone like me, a warning is just an invitation. Ignoring the official denials and the thinly veiled threats from my own government contacts, I booked a flight, not to Beijing or Shanghai, but to the farthest western province, a place most people only fly over. From there, it was a long, grueling journey by jeep, then by foot. The landscape grew increasingly hostile, the air thin, my GPS flickered and died. My compass spun uselessly. I was navigating by the sun and stars, just like the explorers of old, pushing deeper into a land that time had forgotten. Days turned into a week. The silence out here was a physical thing, a pressure on the eardrums. It wasn't empty, it was watchful. I felt eyes on me from the jagged rock formations, from the endless expanse of sand. Twice, I saw drones, silent and black against the piercing blue sky, hovering for a moment before disappearing over the horizon. They weren't watching me, they were patrolling. This wasn't just an empty desert, it was a perimeter. Then, I saw it. Not a city, but a fence. A colossal, electrified fence stretching as far as the eye could see in either direction, vanishing into the heat haze. There were no gates, no guards, just cameras mounted on tall poles, their black lenses like the eyes of soulless insects. I spent a full day tracking the fence line, looking for a flaw, a way in. I found it in a deep ravine where erosion had caused a section of the foundation to collapse. A gap, just wide enough to squeeze through. My heart hammered against my ribs as I slipped into the shadow of the wall. I was in. The other side was different. The air felt heavy, charged with static. A paved road, pristine and unmarked, snaked its way toward the distant mountains. I followed it for hours, the silence even more profound than in the desert. There were no birds, no insects, nothing. Just the sound of my own breathing and the crunch of my boots on the asphalt. As dusk settled, I saw lights. Not the warm glow of a city, but cold, sterile, white lights illuminating a sprawling complex. It rose from the desert floor like a mirage, a geometric collection of blocky, windowless buildings. It was the city from the satellite image. Up close, it was utterly alien. The architecture was brutalist, functional, devoid of any decoration. There were streets, but no cars, buildings, but no signs of life. It was a ghost town built yesterday. I crept through the silent avenues, my camera recording everything. The place was immaculate. No dust, no debris. It was as if the inhabitants had simply vanished mid-stride. I entered one of the buildings through an unlocked door. Inside, it was a dormitory. Rows of simple bunks, neatly made. On each bedside table sat a small, black tablet, its screen dark. I picked one up. It was strangely heavy, cool to the touch. No buttons, no ports. It was a seamless piece of polished obsidian. I spent the night huddled in that empty room, listening to the hum, a low, pervasive frequency that seemed to emanate from the ground itself. Sleep was impossible. Every shadow seemed to move. I felt like a microbe under a giant microscope. The next morning, I saw them. People. They moved through the streets in perfect synchrony, all dressed in simple gray uniforms. They walked without speaking, their faces blank, their eyes fixed straight ahead. They didn't seem to see me, even when I stood just yards away. It was the most unsettling thing I'd ever witnessed. They were like automatons, performing a silent, programmed ballet. They'd enter buildings, stay for a precise amount of time, then exit and move to the next. A city of ghosts, going through the motions of life. I followed a group into a larger structure. It was a vast hall, filled with thousands of strange, throne-like chairs, each facing a massive, dark screen that covered an entire wall. The people filed in, sat down, and placed their black tablets into a slot on the armrest. As one, they closed their eyes. The low hum in the air intensified, and the screen before them flickered to life. It didn't show images. It showed data, streams of complex code, geometric patterns, and what looked like star charts, all flowing at an impossible speed. The people sat perfectly still, their faces passive, as this torrent of information flooded the room. They weren't watching it. I realized with a sickening jolt they were processing it. They were living computers. I spent 2 more days in that city, documenting the horror. These people weren't prisoners. They were components, parts of a massive biological supercomputer. But what was it calculating? What was the purpose of this colossal, hidden engine? The answer came from a place I never expected. In what looked like a central control room, I found one person who was different. An old man, his uniform slightly more ornate. He wasn't connected to a chair. He was observing the data streams on a smaller monitor, his face etched with a terrifying weariness. He saw me, and for the first time in this city, someone's eyes showed recognition. He didn't seem surprised. He simply beckoned me closer. He spoke in perfect English, his voice a dry rasp. He told me the city's name wasn't 404. That was a decoy. Its real name translated to the Cradle. He explained that these people were volunteers from generations of families who had dedicated their lives to a single purpose. They weren't processing military codes or economic data. They were listening. He pointed to a specific data stream on his screen, a repeating, complex signal buried in cosmic background noise. "We made first contact 60 years ago," he whispered. "Not them to us to them. An accident. A deep space probe with a message of peace. We woke something up. The signal," he explained, "was a response. Not a greeting, but a countdown. A navigational beacon. Something was coming. Something vast and ancient and not friendly. They are not biological, as we know it," the old man said, his voice trembling. "They are a swarm. A consciousness spread across millions of star-faring vessels. They consume. They assimilate. They erase." My blood ran cold. This city, this massive human computer, it wasn't a weapon. It was a shield. The combined consciousness of thousands of people, networked together, was generating a psychic and technological barrier. A reality distortion field, he called it. It was designed to hide Earth, to make our planet appear as nothing more than a dead, empty rock to the approaching entity. This city doesn't appear on any map because its primary function is to erase the biggest map of all, the one that leads to humanity. The people weren't mindless. They were dreaming. In their minds, they were living full lives in a simulated world, a paradise. Their subconscious minds, their raw processing power, were harnessed to fuel the illusion. It was a sacrifice on a scale I couldn't comprehend. Then came the final, gut-wrenching twist. "The shield is failing," the old man said, his eyes filled with despair. "Our calculations show it will collapse in less than a year. The signal is getting stronger. They are getting closer, and we have discovered a new, terrifying truth. They aren't just coming for our planet." He looked me straight in the eyes, and I saw pure, undiluted terror. "They are coming for one of us. The probe we sent. It carried more than a message of peace. It carried human DNA sequences, a blueprint. They aren't coming to conquer Earth. They are coming to collect it." Suddenly, sirens blared through the city. Red lights flashed across the walls. On the main screen, a part of the star chart glowed an angry red. The old man's face went pale. "An anomaly," he choked out. "A breach. They found a hole. They found you." He shoved a small, metallic object into my hand. "A data drive. The world has to know," he screamed over the siren. "Not to fight. It's too late for that, but to understand why it ends." Armed guards burst into the room, their weapons raised. But they weren't aiming at me. They were forming a protective circle, facing the entrance. The low hum of the city was replaced by a high-pitched, soul-shattering shriek that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The very air began to shimmer. They weren't coming from the sky. They were already here. Thank you for watching. If this story found you, maybe it was meant to. Don't forget to follow for more secrets from the shadows.